tracks that might be made by a tractor or a plow. No tire tracks, and no...
It got...
Can you feel it? When the ground starts shaking, volcanoes erupt violently, the sky goes pitch dark with weird, twisted shapes you can't even name, and deep roars come up from way down inside the earth, like ancient warnings that've been buried for thousands of years. Everything's shifting, cracking, spinning right in front of us. Something's coming closer, faster than we think. From towering ash columns swallowing the light, to eerie sounds rising from a deep well near the Euphrates River, to swarms of insects blocking out the sky over the Kamchatka Peninsula. From strange objects spinning and hovering in the air over Prague, the moon looking out of sync above Chicago, to rivers of sand pouring down like waterfalls in Saudi Arabia, and giant patterns carved into the ground at Alvord Desert. All of it is hitting us hard, spreading fast, and not slowing down one bit. Now, come with me as we dive into each of these events and pull back the curtain on the truth. But first, please leave a prayer in the comments below, just a simple way to tell God you still trust Him. Amen. And so you don't have to wait long, we're jumping right in with 1. Manaro Voi volcano erupts on Ambae Island, Vanuatu. Manaro Voi is roaring and erupting hard on Ambae Island in Vanuatu. That huge column of ash shoots straight up like a black wall, swallowing the Pacific sky, and you can almost feel the ground shaking under your feet, even from halfway around the world. This giant volcano isn't just smoking, it's roaring, tearing the air apart, forcing thousands of people to run for their lives in panic as thick ash starts falling like poisonous rain. Ambae is a volcanic island with a long history of big activity, but this time, the ash plume climbs nearly 10,000 feet, spreading out and blocking the sun in the middle of the day, turning everything a heavy gray. Ash piles up on roofs, gardens, and water supplies, shutting down normal life in just a few hours. Matthew 24:7 says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." End quote. Those words echo amid the tremors spreading from deep underground, feeling more like a quiet hint than a final answer. Lava starts pouring out, glowing red and rolling like hot blood from a wound in the earth. Constant quakes crack the ground and shake houses non-stop. Scientists say it's from magma pressure building in a chamber below, but the speed and strength of this eruption have caught a lot of people by surprise. Luke 21:11 notes, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events, and great signs from heaven." As ash swirls over the peak, it's hard not to think of those great signs from heaven the old words talked about. Back in the 19th century, history records a fierce lightning strike hitting the top of a sleeping volcano, and soon after, a chain of powerful eruptions broke out, destroying everything around, wiping out villages and burying life under thick ash. Those decades saw many volcanoes suddenly wake up and wreck wide areas, almost like a harsh cleansing cycle sweeping the world. Revelation 8:5 says, "The angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it on the earth. And there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake." The picture of fire falling from heaven and the earth shaking makes a lot of folks stop and wonder if some kind of cleansing is being hinted at. Some see this as just normal earth movement, part of how the planet works, but the timing, with these violent eruptions lining up with other strange events around the world, makes the picture feel heavier. When a volcano roars and swallows the light, it might just be nature doing its thing, but it could also be the opening signal for something much bigger, quietly coming closer. If this volcano is only the first drumbeat in a deeper series of movements, how much louder will the next roars from the earth get? And where exactly are we in that countdown? 2. The Devil's Well, with terrifying sounds in the desert and the Euphrates River. A horrible scream tears through the night, coming up from the bottom of a deep well out in the empty desert. The sound is eerie and twisted, like thousands of suffering souls all waking up from hell at the same time. It doesn't sound like wind or a machine. It's a long, vibrating cry that rises high, then drops low, giving you chills in just the first few seconds. The viral video shows the exact moment the well cover pops open, and that sound rushes out like breath trapped for centuries. The well is in a lonely desert spot. No signs, just sand and wind. But when the man bends down and pulls the cover off, the ground shakes a little. Then the scream booms from the dark depths. The noise echoes off the well walls, coming back like metal hitting metal, like chains being dragged through the dark. You can almost imagine standing right at the edge, feeling those waves of sound rise up from below like hidden currents. Other recordings near the Euphrates River catch similar noises, as if the ground is sending out strange signals from something you can't see. In Revelation 9:14 it says, "Speak to the sixth angel who has the trumpet. Release the 4 angels bound at the great river Euphrates." Those words point right to that ancient river, where Bible teaching says certain beings are tied up, waiting for the time they're set free. And in recent years, the water in the Euphrates has dropped to a serious low, with big stretches of the riverbed dry and exposed. Talk about devil wells and sleeping entities has spread, mixing in with news about the environment and the supernatural. Revelation 9:15 continues. The 4 angels who had been kept ready for that very hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. When screams come from the well and sounds like chains clashing echo from spots near the Lord River, a lot of people start connecting it to a release that's been foretold. 2 Peter 2-4 also says, "For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until judgment." Those words don't just stay on the page when things today seem to fit together piece by piece. Still, some people don't believe it and say it's only wind blowing through rock cracks or sound echoes in a deep hole. But the fact that the same kinds of noises show up in different places, on different videos, right when the holy river is drying up, makes the worry spread wider. When dry ground suddenly lets out screams like souls in pain, and a river mentioned in prophecy slowly uncovers parts hidden for thousands of years, the warning doesn't feel so far away anymore. If those chained beings are starting to move under the sand and stone, if the screams from the well are just the first sign of something rising that's been set for a long time, then what will happen when that door really flies open and the next signs start appearing across the sky and the earth? 3. A swirling tornado made up of thousands upon thousands of mosquitoes, full of mystery. A really strange and hard to believe scene is happening right in front of us. The sky suddenly swirls wildly, with millions of mosquitoes gathering into a thick black column. It moves like a living tornado, trying to come down to the ground. The air shakes with such a thick buzzing that it's hard to breathe. In just a few minutes, you can't see anything. The daylight turns dim and hazy like dusk. People stand frozen, staring at this huge spinning mass of creatures right overhead. And do you know why mosquitoes act this strange way? This usually happens in damp areas near rivers, lakes, or swamps during breeding season. But what really scares people isn't just the mosquitoes being there. It's how they join together into towers, dozens of feet high, twisting like tiny waterspouts and moving in directions you can't predict. Some folks who saw it say the mosquito column can drift with the wind, then suddenly straighten itself out to keep the same shape, as if some invisible order is controlling the whole swarm. Something similar was recorded in Pune, where smaller insects, like midges, form such dense columns They look like black smoke rising from the ground. From far away, the thing doesn't break apart. It holds its shape for many minutes, slowly swirling like a living pillar floating in the air. A lot of people thought it was a smoldering fire. In Exodus 8:17 it says, "If you refuse to let my people go, I will send swarms of flies upon you and your officials, your people, and your houses." Scientists explain it's a swarming behavior during mating season. Male mosquitoes gather in big groups to attract females, using vibrations and light signals to keep the flying structure steady. Still, in some cases, these mosquito tornadoes get way bigger than what's usually seen, with such thick density that they block out part of the horizon. In Revelation 9:3, it says, "And out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were given power, like that of scorpions of the earth." Science is right about the biology behind it, but the timing, the size, and the way it shows up make a lot of people think harder about things written down so long ago. In Luke 21:11 it says, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places." When pests spread out of control like this, is it just a natural cycle or a sign that's been warned about ahead of time? One mosquito column is enough to throw a whole neighborhood into panic. But if similar things started happening all at once on the Kamchatka Peninsula, where the ecosystem is already so fragile, what would the sky look like there? Completely covered by millions of swirling creatures in total silence? 4. A cloud of mosquitoes over the Kamchatka Peninsula, Russia. The sun got blocked out. A thick, dark, mysterious cloud swallowed up the whole daytime when millions of mosquitoes suddenly covered the sky over the Kamchatka Peninsula. They formed such a dense, swirling mass that they hid the sunlight for hours, leaving the whole area along the Bering Coast feeling stuffy and smothered, like it was buried under a living, vibrating curtain. It wasn't a storm cloud. It was a huge living thing hanging over everyone's heads, stretching hundreds of yards and staying there for 2 straight days. These mosquito columns didn't just move. They spun around a center where millions of male mosquitoes gathered around a few females to mate. It looked like a standing biological tornado in the air, sometimes leaning with the wind, then straightening up again, as if some invisible force was keeping the whole living mass together. In Exodus 10:14 it says, "The locusts covered the face of the whole land of Egypt, so that the land was darkened." People's reaction split right away into 2 clear sides. A lot of local folks stayed inside their homes, scared of this insect darkness blocking every path. But some Christian communities stayed amazingly calm. A few believers reassured everyone, saying all these changes are under God's ultimate control, and they weren't afraid of what was happening around them. What do you think gave them that kind of peace? Was it just faith or something deeper? Scientists point to climate change making mosquito breeding explode in these cold coastal areas. But many folks say a sudden spread this huge, one that blocks the whole horizon, can't just be a normal life cycle. In Revelation 16:2 it says, "The first angel went and poured out his bowl on the land, and ugly, painful sores broke out on the people who had the mark of the beast and worshipped its image." As these swirling swarms keep showing up, worries about pests and disease grow by the hour, especially since people can't even leave their houses with the thick bugs hanging right outside the windows. In Matthew 24:7 it says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." If this living darkness can cover the sun today, what else might cover the earth and sky tomorrow? 5. A mysterious white cube spinning in the Prague night sky. A white cube suddenly appeared, spinning and floating in the night sky over Prague. It reflected light in bright, glaring streaks, almost like its surface wasn't made of anything normal. In that quiet moment, we could see its slow movement cutting through the clouds, like some purposeful structure coming from nowhere. It stayed there for nearly 5 minutes, then vanished all at once right in front of dozens of cameras, making the whole sky feel like it had just bent according to some strange rule. Many witnesses said the object was huge, about the size of a 6-story building. It rotated steadily around its own axis, with no sound at all. That quickly ruled out drones or airplanes, since there were no signs of air movement or engines. In Luke 21:25, it says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Online, people quickly split into two sides. One group thought it might be some secret military device being tested. The other side leaned toward UFO because a perfect cube shape is so rare and it disappeared instantly without leaving any heat trace. The debate went on for days with no clear answer, and that opened the door to explanations beyond just regular technology. In Revelation 12:12, it says, "Woe to the earth and the sea. The devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows his time is short." A lot of folks started seeing this as part of a bigger series of signs in the sky, things that don't just amaze us, but carry a message we need to figure out. In Daniel 12:1, it says, "At that time Michael, the great prince who stands watch over your people, will arise," with all the arguments still hanging. This old scripture feels like a key to understanding these strange events, strengthening the belief that everything is following a much larger plan. The white cube is gone now, but the feeling that something was arranged still hangs over that old city, leaving an aftertaste that makes the moon the next night look somehow different in a way that's hard to explain. 6. The moon moved strangely across the sky over Chicago. The moon up above Chicago suddenly slid sideways in just a few seconds, like someone yanked the whole background of reality off track. Its usual path started shaking from right to left, right in front of hundreds of people watching. No clouds in the way, just this giant satellite slipping along in unbelievable silence, when we always thought it never changed. Plenty of videos caught the same odd movement, showing the moon like it was jerking frame by frame, jumping position inch by inch across the calm night sky. It felt like space was being torn apart layer by layer, invisible layers. In Luke 21:25, it says, "There will be strange signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth nations will be worried and confused because of the roaring sea and waves." Atmospheric experts think this could be from ice crystals in the upper air, creating a temporary shift illusion, like how light bends through a prism and makes things look off from certain angles. At the same time, Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." Long-time sky watchers say they've never seen anything so jerky or broken up, where the moon just slid across space without getting dimmer or changing shape. In Revelation 6:12, it says, "I watched as the Lamb opened the 6th seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth, and the whole moon became red like blood." Some folks suggested camera glitches, but shots from different spots miles apart all showed the same kind of shift, so a pure tech explanation doesn't hold up too well. This doesn't throw out science, but it does give another way to look at these little changes that suddenly touch the very foundation of our stable physical world. When something as familiar as the moon can jump out of place in just a few seconds, you really feel how fragile the order of the universe is, and the night horizon seems to be waiting for something else to cross it. 7. A strange creature looking like a giant squid floating in the sky over Minsk, Belarus. A huge squid-like thing suddenly appeared floating above Minsk. It drifted slowly across the night sky, almost like it had just come up from the deep ocean and flown right into the air. You couldn't look away from its smooth, quiet movements. No wings, no engine, just a half see-through shape, giving off a soft glow against the dark sky. People who saw it said the body was dozens of feet long, with soft tentacles moving gently like it was swimming in water. It left faint, glowing trails behind each twist and turn, making the whole thing look like a giant sea creature that somehow ended up in the sky. In Luke 21:11, it says, "There will be great terrors and signs from heaven." Some videos show the object changing shape a little every second, stretching and shrinking like it was alive, totally different from the stiff motion of a balloon or drone. And it made no sound at all the whole time it was visible, which lasted almost 3 minutes. In Daniel 7-3, it says, "4 great beasts came up out of the sea, different from one another." Folks watching this called it the Belarusian sky squid because of the hazy membrane around its body that caught and reflected light with every move, making it seem like the creature was breathing in the air instead of just floating. In Revelation 9-7, it says, "The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads they had something like golden crowns, and their faces were like human faces." People came up with some technical ideas to explain it, but nothing really fits the way it glowed like sea life and moved so naturally and softly. This makes it one of the hardest sightings to figure out in the area. That quiet but lively appearance feels like a reminder that there are layers of reality we haven't seen yet, and maybe far-off deserts are getting ready to tell another story. 8. Sandfall in Saudi Arabia. Right in the middle of Saudi Arabia's bone-dry desert, a waterfall, not of water, but of sand, suddenly pours down from a cliff hundreds of feet high. It flows like the ground itself is melting and sliding away from the solid order we always thought would never change. We barely have time to figure out what's happening before the whole golden scene fills our view. In narrow canyons, carved by rare rain erosion, water suddenly pools after a big storm and drags tons of fine sand down from the top, creating a huge sandfall that keeps flowing for several minutes. It twists and turns like lava, but glows bright under the sun. In Joel 2:30, it says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." Some geologists say this is a rare kind of landslide, where deep rainwater weakens the sand and rock structure. Still, the way it stretches over 300 feet with such smooth, even flow makes it look more like something designed than just a random natural event. In Revelation 16:18, it says, "There came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a great earthquake, such as there had never been since man was on the earth." The sand pours down without breaking apart. It flows in layers like a liquid, reshaping the land in just a short time. The whole lower surface gets covered by a fresh layer of sediment, like a curtain changing the landscape. In Matthew 24-29, it says, "The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken." Some folks say it's just the result of extreme weather. But when the earth starts to flow like water, that sight feels like a quiet warning about how fragile the order we once trusted really is. And far off, the Oregon desert seems to be hiding patterns that are even harder to understand. 9. Mysterious patterns in the Oregon desert. On the cracked ground of Oregon's Alvord Desert, a huge pattern suddenly showed up right in the middle of the dry lake bed. It was like some invisible hand quietly drew it during the night, and you only really grasp how big it is when you look down from way up high. The lines stretch a total of more than 13 miles, forming a perfect geometric shape about a quarter-mile wide, with triangles and circles fitted together so precisely that not a single footprint or tire track was left on the fine, dusty surface. In Daniel 12-4, it says, "But you, Daniel, shut up these words, and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." Civilian pilots were the first ones to spot this structure from the air, when the straight lines and crossing angles created a design that many people say reminds them of the Sri Yantra, though its origin is still very much debated. In Revelation 13:18, it says, "This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Still, some people think it's a large-scale human art piece, but the perfect geometry and super remote location make that hard to confirm, especially since no usual signs of construction were found at the site. In Luke 21:25, it says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth distress of nations in perplexity because of the roaring of the sea and the waves." Those perfect patterns just sit there quietly in the desert, like a message that hasn't been fully decoded yet. And far out at sea, schools of sardines seem to be starting to move in a way that makes a lot of folks stop and wonder. 10. Millions of sardines wash up on shore, a strange and amazing sight. Millions of sardines suddenly came rushing right onto the beach, turning the clear blue water into a thick, swirling, chaotic mass. In just a few minutes, the peaceful shoreline turned into a deadly trap as shark fins began cutting through the waves toward it. Would you dare stay standing in that boiling, churning water? In places like South Africa or Australia, this thing called the sardine run is a natural migration that happens every year. But when millions of these small fish, only a few inches long, charge into shallow water, jumping wildly to escape predators, the surface looks like it's being stirred by some invisible force. Sharks race in after the schools, dolphins and seals circle from below, seabirds dive from above. It creates a thick whirlpool of hunting that could trap any swimmer right in the middle of the chaos. In Luke 21:25, it says, "And on the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring." When the water is no longer calm but pounding with heavy waves, the thrashing tails and constant collisions sound like a storm rising right under people's feet. The unease doesn't just come from nature. It comes from the feeling that the normal order we know is starting to crack. People say it's just a seasonal migration, but it's getting thicker and more intense every time. Removing protective nets and the growing number of predators make the real danger higher than ever. When the water turns red from torn-apart fish, the scene reminds us of a judgment that was announced long ago. In Revelation 16:3 it says, "And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea." The sight of sharks slicing through the thick mass of fish is like an invisible fire sweeping everything in its path. Panic spreads faster than the tide, as if the ocean is carrying out a final, unstoppable verdict. In Joel 2-3 it says, "A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth." If the sea, the symbol of life itself, starts turning chaotic and becomes a battlefield for survival, is it just an ecology coincidence? Or is it the last warning that the time of judgment is drawing near? The ocean is changing, more fierce and unpredictable, and each of those boiling, surging waves feels like it's knocking on people's hearts, waking us up to the fact that we're no longer outside these strange signs. What's happening now may just be the beginning of bigger upheavals. The question left isn't what is going on, it's whether you're ready to face what's coming. Here are 10 phenomena that have passed right before our eyes, like a series of strange signs strung together by the same invisible thread, from unusual movements deep underground to changes up in the sky. From cracked deserts to oceans churning wildly, the ground shakes, the sky shows odd shapes, and the seas become more chaotic than ever before. All of it forms one connected picture, not scattered pieces, as if nature is speaking the same warning language. When we look back at the whole journey, we don't just see separate events, we see a quickening rhythm, an increase in both strength and frequency. It makes people wonder, could these be signs of a very special time? In Matthew 24-42 it says, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come." Those words aren't meant to scare us. They're like a bell ringing in the middle of the night, waking us up so we don't stay asleep in carelessness. If these strange signs really are reminders, then what matters isn't panic, it's getting our hearts ready. It isn't fear, it's turning back, repenting, and putting our trust in the Most High. Hope doesn't disappear in the warnings. In fact, it's right in the middle of these upheavals that faith gets tested and grows stronger. Because when everything material starts to shake, only the spiritual foundation stands firm. Maybe you've followed along from the very first sign up to this moment. Maybe questions have come up in your heart that don't have answers yet. And that's completely normal when we face things beyond human understanding. But instead of letting unease take the lead, let being awake open a new path. Let each day become a chance to change, to love, to get ready for something much bigger that's drawing near. If you feel something moving in your spirit right now, leave a sincere prayer or thought in the comments below. A prayer is never meaningless in times like these. Please hit like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the next messages. Each one might be an important piece in the picture that's coming together. Thank you for staying with me to the end of this journey. I pray that you and your family stay in peace, protected, and guided through all the changes of these times. What will the next sign be? The final period is getting close, and what remains is how we choose to live starting today. Amen.
Have you ever wondered, if God wanted to say something to humanity, how would he choose to do it? In an age where science can analyze, measure, and explain almost every natural phenomenon, there are still moments that leave even the experts scratching their heads, completely unable to figure out what's going on. And those things don't come to scare us. They come to wake us up and get our attention. This video takes us through 10 strange phenomena actually recorded at real locations in the US, Canada, China, and Kazakhstan. Tall columns of light shooting straight up into the night sky. Perfect round cloud rings opening up high in the atmosphere. Mysterious sounds echoing so loud that whole communities hear them. Glowing streaks moving in very unusual paths. Clouds forming shapes that leave people stunned. These aren't just old stories passed around with no proof. They're real events caught on photos, videos, and told by multiple witnesses. And before we dive into these mysteries that can't be explained, feel free to leave a prayer in the comments below as a way to show your faith. Amen. Now, so you don't have to wait any longer, let's get right started with 1. The sky was split in two, one side pouring rain, the other side strangely dry. The sky over a city street near the Canadian border got torn right down the middle, straight in front of our eyes. Rain came down like a waterfall on one side, while the other side stayed completely dry and sunny. That moment made everyone stop and really look at what was happening. Cars slammed on their brakes, people stepped out from the sidewalks, and we all watched this invisible line dividing the air in a way we'd never seen before. In just a few minutes, they measured 2 inches of rain dumping hard on one half of the road, while the other half didn't get a single drop. Cameras caught a sharp dividing line stretching hundreds of feet, clean as if someone had built a wall between two masses of air. This kind of thing is usually called ultra-localized rain and tied to small convective clouds. But here, the boundary didn't spread or move at all like the weather models always predict. Ezekiel 1-4 says, "And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud with fire flashing forth and brightness all around." The Bible's descriptions of wind and clouds show that nature doesn't just move randomly, it can also become a way for something far beyond human measurement to show its power. Scientists quickly came up with ideas, saying it was probably just a pressure difference or a tiny convective cloud mass. But none of the models could explain why the rain line stopped exactly at the edge of the street without spilling over to either side. No gradual change, no wet middle zone, just one side soaked in rain and the other bone dry. Psalm 18:10 says, "He rode upon a cherub and flew. He soared on the wings of the wind." When people put those words next to what was just recorded, a lot of folks started seeing it as a hint that natural forces can still be directed in ways we never expect. If the weather can split so cleanly like that in only a few minutes, then what made that perfect dividing line? This wasn't just caught on camera. It's opening up a bigger question about how the sky can show us things we never even thought to consider. 2. A strange shaped cloud that looks like a secret base up in the sky. Peeking out from behind the clouds, a huge shape suddenly appeared on top of the mountain. It made a bunch of cars slow down, and lots of people pulled over just to stare up at it. This wasn't some regular cloud drifting by. It was a structure just hanging there in the middle of the sky, so striking that anyone around Mount Shasta could tell something unusual was going on. Up on the high slopes, a disc-shaped lenticular cloud, maybe thousands of feet across, stayed floating in place for hours with almost no change. Its surface caught the light and made it look more solid than any normal cloud. Strong winds were blowing through the area, but instead of stretching out or breaking up, the cloud kept its perfect symmetrical shape, like it was locked in one spot in the sky. You can clearly see the whole thing moving slowly in videos taken from different angles. Psalm 104:3 says, "He lays the beams of his upper chambers in the waters. He makes the clouds his chariot. He rides on the wings of the wind." When you put that verse next to the sight of a cloud moving in such an orderly way, like something with purpose, many believers feel this isn't just weather. It's a reminder that signs in the sky were talked about a long time ago. On social media, some folks see it as proof of a hidden base or some kind of strange object. Others say it's just a natural thing caused by wind blowing over high mountains. Weather experts call it a lenticular cloud, but the way it stayed so steady for so long still sparks a lot of debate. The faith community pays special attention to its perfect symmetry and where it formed. They don't think it's a coincidence that it showed up in a mountain area known for all kinds of strange happenings. Ezekiel 10:9 says, "I looked, and there were 4 wheels beside the cherubim, 1 wheel beside each cherub, and the appearance of the wheels was like the color of beryl." Pictures of bright round structures appearing in the sky have been described before as a warning that the heavens can show things beyond our normal understanding. If these kinds of signs aren't as new as we might think, then every time one shows up, what exactly are we being reminded of? And if that cloud wasn't just something the wind made, then what might be hidden behind that calm, still surface? 3. A strange beam of light moves across the sky like it has a mind of its own. A sudden beam of light appeared right in the low clouds. It wasn't coming from the ground, and it didn't follow any normal path. The sky above got hazy, like something thin was covering it. The whole thing made people wonder about supernatural beings. Out in the countryside of Saskatchewan, Canada, several videos show long rays of light, hundreds of feet long, changing direction every few minutes. But they never pointed back to one clear source. People watching noticed the brightness would suddenly get stronger, then fade fast. The clouds around it didn't reflect the light the way normal refraction does. Instead, there was this separate, glowing area standing out against the sky behind it. Daniel 10:6 says, "His body was like beryl, his face like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches." When these beams moved in uneven rhythms, a lot of folks thought of beings described with light, like some kind of presence, quietly watching and guarding something still hidden. The usual explanations are that it might be ground searchlights bouncing off low clouds, or light bending through thick, moist air. But no lighting equipment was found anywhere for miles around. Plus, the beams changed angle on their own, not following the wind at all. Regular refraction patterns just can't recreate this, under the same conditions. Revelation 12-7 says, "Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon." When you put that next to these shifting light bands that look like they're scanning the sky, some believers see it as a sign. They think what's showing up isn't just physical. It points to an invisible battle protecting the world we can see. If light can move without depending on any source, what's guiding its path? And if these beams aren't just some weather effect, then the next time they show up, what exactly will they be searching for in the sky? 4. Mysterious glowing orbs, like the Ophanim angels. These glowing orbs suddenly appeared above the neighborhood, made sharp turns, stopped, then kept flying without making any sound at all. A bunch of videos from the suburbs in New Jersey show them responding to calls and hand gestures from the ground, leaving lots of people stunned when they realized the movements weren't random. Each orb looks about 5 to 10 feet across, giving off light that shifts from gold to blue while staying in perfect formation up in the air, spinning like a set of wheels nested inside each other. You can clearly see their curved paths repeating over and over without getting thrown off by strong wind. Some patrol units went close to the area, but didn't pick up any remote control signals or radio waves that would match a drone. Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 15 says, "As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground beside each of the four-faced creatures." Pictures of round, orderly moving structures have been described before as signs of something present from above, reminding us that not every movement in the sky can be measured by our instruments. Some folks say these are test drones or glowing balloons, but there's no propeller system, no aerodynamic vibration, and no heat trail like you'd see from mechanical devices. Plus, the way the light changes color and rhythm with their motion hasn't been exactly matched by any commercial flying model out there. As the tech explanations start to fall apart, a lot of believers are noticing how the orbs keep perfect spacing, like they're on some kind of watch or monitoring mission. Ezekiel 10:12 says, "Their whole bodies, backs, hands, wings, and the wheels were full of eyes all around." That description is seen as a warning that wheel-like moving symbols were once mentioned to point to observation and control, like a reminder of the path humanity is choosing. If these orbs aren't following any normal flying rules we know, then what's guiding their paths? And if their presence carries a message, the next time they show up, are we being watched because we've drifted off the course that was set for us? 5. The mysterious door in the clouds over Lake Huron. A huge rectangular shape hung there in the gray clouds, so sharp and clear it looked like someone had cut and pasted it right into the sky, appearing above the calm water of Lake Huron. It wasn't some fuzzy streak of light or a broken piece of cloud. It was a real door with soft glowing edges and a center that was pitch black and deep. If a true doorway really opened up high in the sky, would you dare believe your own eyes or think it was just a trick of the light? People saw this near the Michigan shore, in the area right along the Canadian border, a place that's had lots of reports of strange things in the sky over the years. Witnesses guess the door was hundreds of feet wide, with straight sides and almost perfect right angles. It just hung there steady for several minutes without blending into the clouds around it. Revelation 4:1 says, "After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven." Those words sound like they explain it perfectly, because a door up in the middle of the sky isn't some strange new idea in the Bible. It's been described before as a sign of connection between two different realms. A lot of folks say it's just an optical illusion from layers of cold and warm air stacking up, but weather experts couldn't recreate that sharp rectangular shape with such steady edges. Plus, the military sent out an urgent response team, so they clearly didn't think it was just a regular cloud. The light coming from the door frame didn't scatter like sunlight bouncing off something. It seemed to come from the edge itself, giving the feeling of a real boundary between two spaces. Genesis 28:12 says, "He had a dream. in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. When you put that next to this door floating over the lake, many believers feel it's more than just weather. It's a sign of an opening, a place where God's power allows heaven and earth to touch for a moment. If it really was a door that opened for a short time and then closed again, what was it for? And who would be allowed to step through? The whole thing didn't just amaze people. It stirred up faith that his kingdom isn't far away at all. It's just behind a thin veil we hardly ever get to see. And if that door ever opens again someday, would you be ready to walk toward that light? 6. Demon face at the music concert. A big concert full of bright lights and loud music suddenly stopped for a split second when the huge LED screen behind the stage flashed something that wasn't part of the show at all. A face with glowing red eyes and twisted features appeared for less than a second. It happened right in the middle of Diljit Dosanjh's concert in Sydney, with tens of thousands of people watching live. Videos from different spots in the stadium show the face popped up exactly when the singer made a triangle hand sign. It wasn't normal stage lighting or a scene transition. It was a clear, deep image that made the whole crowd scream at once. Do you really think a simple display glitch could make something that lifelike in less than one frame? Ephesians 6:12 says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." When people put this moment next to that warning, a lot of viewers felt what flashed on screen wasn't just static, it was a quick glimpse of something that's usually hidden. The lighting and sound engineers later said it could have been a glitch in the display system, but the timing with the hand gesture sparked big arguments all over social media. Hundreds of separate clips from different angles captured the exact same frame, proving it wasn't just one faulty device. The fact that the shape looked the same in every video raised real questions about where that image actually came from. Revelation 12:9 says, "The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels were hurled down with him." This Bible verse is often brought up as a reminder that invisible forces can show themselves in our world in unexpected ways. Even though many think it was just a technical glitch, a lot of believers feel that quick flash was a reminder of the never-ending battle between light and darkness. A battle where God's power is still in control of things beyond what we can understand. If it was only a brief look, will that face come back in a clearer way at the next show? 7. Mysterious circles in the clouds. Perfect round cloud formations appear in the sky, as if shaped by an invisible mold. They hang perfectly still in the air, even while strong winds swirl all around them. This has been seen in the Cascade Range, the same area where Kenneth Arnold first reported seeing unidentified flying objects back in 1947. Have you ever looked up and felt like the sky was hiding something behind those two perfect curves? These lenticular clouds have smooth edges that look almost like polished metal. They can stretch thousands of feet across and hold their shape for hours without breaking apart the way normal clouds do. They drift slowly, keeping that symmetrical stack of disks, which makes a lot of people say they look like objects hiding in natural camouflage, quietly watching the world below from a safe distance. Ezekiel 1:16 says, "The appearance of the wheels was like the gleaming of beryl, and the four wheels had the same form." Their appearance and construction being, as it were, a wheel within a wheel. That description makes many people think of circles nested inside each other in the sky, as if some moving structure is there behind what looks like harmless clouds. Meteorologists say it's just moist air getting squeezed as it flows over high mountains, but the almost perfect symmetry of these cloud disks and how they keep their sharp edges in strong winds still isn't fully explained. Many photos show a soft glow around the edges, reflecting sunlight in a way that's different from regular layered clouds. Daniel 7-9 reads, "As I looked, thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool." The image of thrones and bright white light is often seen as a symbol of divine presence, reminding people to watch and recognize signs that don't belong to the physical world. Even though science calls this a natural phenomenon, many believers feel the clouds might be a curtain hiding signs meant to wake up humanity. If those discs really are vehicles of messengers, what exactly are they waiting for before coming closer to us? 8. The night sky suddenly turned blood red. A normal evening turned into a nightmare when the whole sky changed to a deep blood red color, covering the horizon and making coastal people quietly panic and leave their homes. This happened in Zushan, where light from hundreds of squid fishing boats far offshore is said to have reflected off low clouds. When you see the entire sky glowing red like it's burning from the inside, you'd wonder, is it just lights or some kind of sign? That red wasn't faint or quick. It was thick, like a glowing fog, lasting for hours without getting any weaker. It colored the sea and the buildings along the shore in a heavy, uneasy shade. Many who saw it said it felt like the sky was bleeding, with the light spreading unevenly and pulsing gently, almost like it had a heartbeat. The scene was both beautiful and hard to explain with normal rules. Joel 2:31 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the great and dreadful day of the Lord comes." People have long seen these words as a warning to stay awake and aware when strange changes happen in the brown sky, signs that no longer follow the usual natural patterns. Some experts say it came from powerful red LED lights on fishing boats, reflecting through moisture in the air. Still, the brightness and how far it spread, miles and miles, make a lot of people wonder. Videos show the sky lit up from every direction, with no clear single source, almost like the red was coming straight from the clouds above. Revelation 6:12 says, "The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair, and the whole moon became like blood." For a long time, pictures of the sun and moon changing color have been seen as reminders of the choices humanity has to make when nature shows things that are beyond our control. Even though it's explained as light reflection, many still feel the sky wouldn't change so dramatically without carrying some kind of message. If that red comes back next time, will it just be boat lights or a reminder we can't keep ignoring? 9. Project Blue Beam Light in Kazakhstan. A huge glowing light just hanging there in the night sky, shining bright like some kind of flying base, appeared right above the horizon and sent local people running out into the streets to look. This happened in Kazakhstan, where there aren't any tall skyscrapers or powerful lights around that could create a reflection like that. If a glowing shape just stayed still, right over your head for several minutes, would you think it was only a trick of the light? The light didn't flash like an airplane, didn't move in a straight line either. It slid slowly sideways, then suddenly changed direction, staying the same steady brightness the whole time it was visible. A lot of folks described it as a solid object surrounded by a white-blue glow, making no sound, leaving no smoke trail, but giving the feeling it was watching the ground below. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Those words sound like a serious warning, pointing out what happens when people ignore clear signs showing up right in the sky. Some people connect this to the Project Bluebeam idea, that it's projection technology meant to mess with what folks believe, but there's no proof of any ground equipment or strong enough laser source in the area. Whether it's a man-made plan or something unexplained, the fact remains, hundreds of witnesses saw the exact same thing at the same time. Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke." When you put that next to a glowing mass, hanging in the middle of the sky. Many believe that any conspiracy, if there is one, can't go beyond God's ultimate control, and these signs may be revealing what's been hidden. If this is just the beginning of something much bigger, what happens if we keep brushing off the signs? The light eventually disappeared, but the question still hangs there. Are we watching the opening act of a moment we can't turn back from? 10. Strange light moving oddly inside the clouds. A light source moved in a strange way right inside the low clouds. It didn't fall, didn't rise, just slid sideways like it was hiding behind thick fog. Many people watching stood still for minutes. This was caught on video in the Bay Area, where the sky usually has satellites we know well. But this time, the movement was completely different. If a beam of light could live inside the clouds for hours, would you call it technology or something beyond our understanding? The light flashed without any regular pattern, changed direction suddenly like it was reacting to something invisible down on the ground, and moved in curves you couldn't predict. No sound, no falling signals, just a path that looped around, then stopped right in the middle of a thick cloud bank about 2,000 to 3,000 feet above the houses. Ezekiel 1:14 says, "The living creatures ran back and forth like flashes of lightning." That verse feels like a final word, pointing out that these lights moving in the sky aren't just physical things. They could be signs of a higher authority at work in ways people can't control or stop. Some folks think it was a string of Starlink satellites reflecting sunlight, but the path didn't go straight, didn't keep steady spacing, and didn't fade out like the usual passes. The whole thing lasted hours on end in the same cloud area, so the regular tech explanations started to lose their power. Psalm 148:3 says, "Praise him, sun and moon, praise him, all you shining stars." Those words are a full reminder that every light in the sky is under ultimate direction, not just to shine, but to guide anyone looking for direction in this chaotic world. If that light wasn't there to show off but to point the way, are we maybe looking at a promise sent right from the sky? And when it shows up again, will you recognize the path it's trying to show you? Here are 10 unusual things that have shown up, not following the normal patterns of nature. From floating beams of light, doors hanging in the sky, to movements that no technology we have can explain. When you put them side by side, they stop looking like random events. Instead, they start forming one clear pattern, almost like the sky is repeating a message that humanity heard once, long ago, but then forgot. Luke 21:28 says, "When these things begin to happen, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near." This verse isn't just comfort. It's a reminder that these signs in the sky aren't meant to scare us. They're meant to wake us up and turn our eyes back to the place where all real hope begins. Strange shaped clouds, silent moving lights, shapes that appear and then vanish right before anyone can get close. All of this is making us look at the sky in a different way. It's no longer just curiosity, it's active listening. It's stopping for a moment to pray and to search for the meaning behind what's happening overhead every night. Joel 2:12 says, "Even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting and weeping and mourning." That's a clear call to action. No delay, no waiting for more proof. The signs we're seeing are already enough to remind us that faith can't keep being put behind doubt. The sky isn't just space, it's a message from God. Are you ready to listen? If you feel something when you look up, leave your own prayer or thought in the comments below. End quote, end quote, end quote. Let's share and encourage each other's faith at this time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any message that might be coming in the days ahead. Thank you for watching, and I'm praying for you and your family to stay safe and at peace under His protection. Amen.
People are talking about a different type of cloud control. Are aliens using
This is why at this, see that inside this amorphous blob, there seemed to be glowing.
Are we stepping into the last days without even realizing it? When the ground splits open, the sky changes color, and strange objects show up one after another. Is that just nature? Or a warning? In Kenya, a 50-foot deep crack tore right through the roads. In Philadelphia, a weird glowing object zipped past power lines. Los Angeles turned red from smoke. California lit up with a rare aurora. Mexico caught a metallic object hidden in the clouds. Florida had a round ring of light like a gateway. The sun looked suspicious through a lens at 34,000 feet. Texas shared images of winged things. Chicago showed an ice cross. And after a storm, dark metallic clusters poured down to the ground. 10 events, stretching from earth to sky, coming one right after the other like a string of signals. Do you think this is just coincidence or a reminder to take a fresh look at our faith? If you believe God is warning us, leave a prayer in the comments below and stick around for the next part. Amen. And now, so you don't have to wait long, let's get right into 1. The earth torn apart, a terrifying split in Kenya. The ground in Kenya suddenly ripped open, spreading wide and swallowing a whole road right in the middle of the day. A huge crack opened up in the Rift Valley, cutting across the Nairobi-Narok highway, stopping traffic and splitting fields in just a moment. About 50 feet deep and nearly 65 feet wide, it opened like the planet's crust had been stretched tight and then torn apart right in front of us. You can imagine how it feels when the ground under your feet isn't steady anymore. This happened in the East African Rift, where the tectonic plates pull apart a few millimeters each year, a slow process that might create a new ocean in millions of years. But when the earth shakes, when the road collapses, and videos capture the land moving like it's breathing, the idea of millions of years suddenly feels very close. Joel chapter 2 verse 10 says, "The earth quakes before him, the heavens tremble, the sun and moon grow dark, and the stars lose their brightness." Those ancient words echo loudly in this modern scene, like a serious warning. Geologists talk about heavy rain, erosion, and pressure building up underground. They study rock structures, the rate of spreading, and tectonic maps. But this crack didn't just show up randomly somewhere. It sits right on the line where the continent is splitting. Isaiah chapter 24 verse 19 says, "The earth will be broken up. The earth will be split open. The earth will be violently shaken." When you read those words, a picture of the ground cracking apart stops being just scientific data. In Zechariah chapter 14 verse 4, it says, "His feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two, making a very large valley." The image of a mountain divided in half. Opening a huge valley from its highest point makes what's happening in the Rift Valley today feel like more than just normal earth movement. It feels like a warning being repeated through rock and dust. We can call it a natural process that takes millions of years, but the moment the ground tore open only took a few seconds. The split wasn't as loud as a siren, but it was enough to make people stop and look down at their own feet. If this is just one crack, why did it appear right when the world is seeing so many other big changes? The crack in Kenya is still there, slowly getting wider over time. It might just be part of the tectonic cycle, or it could be a sign that the foundations we think are solid are starting to shift. The question still hangs. If the ground keeps pulling apart, will the cities, the roads, and everything we count on as stable stay standing? 2. Mystery cloud cover. Alien being shows up in Philadelphia. It appeared right in the middle of the day, sparkling, then ducking out of sight just as the camera caught it. Up in the sky over North Philadelphia, near the corner of 7th and Tioga, a clear shape suddenly showed up. It kept changing form, then moved off like it knew what it was doing. Hector Garcia held up his phone and recorded it. In just a few hours, the video passed 1 million views and sparked a huge wave of arguments. That thing didn't drop or tumble around like trash caught in the wind. It glided along the power lines with a steady path, almost like it was searching for something. Inside the hazy cloud, there were flashing lights, blinking on and off, not like regular sunlight bouncing off. When you look frame by frame, it doesn't feel like you're watching a puff of vapor. It feels more like something alive, deliberately hiding itself. Luke chapter 21 verse 25 says, "There will be strange signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in confusion because of the roaring seas." Those words don't describe the exact shape, but they point to a common feeling: confusion. That same feeling is covering the people who saw this. Nobody is really sure what they just witnessed. Local officials say it was probably just light trash or some reflective material blown up by the wind. But this object changed direction smoothly, stayed at the same height, even shrank and stretched out before disappearing behind a rooftop. Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 4 records, "I looked, and there was a stormy wind coming from the north, a large cloud, fire flashing non-stop, brightness all around, and in the middle of the fire, something like gleaming metal." The picture of a cloud holding light inside makes a lot of people think there's a real connection here. Similar sightings have been reported in other states too, with almost the same description: clear shape, inner lights, purposeful movement. No drone reports, no civilian flying device has claimed it. Revelation chapter 12 verse 3 says, "Then another sign appeared in heaven, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on its heads." That's symbolic language. But the phrase "another sign appeared in heaven" rings like a key to what's happening now. If this is just some weather thing, why does it show up with a stable structure and light coming from inside? If it's just a lifeless object, why does it change shape right before it leaves view? Those questions still have no official answer, and the gap in explanation keeps growing. Signs in the sky aren't rare anymore. When a cloud moves like it's watching us, the line between natural and supernatural starts to blur. And if those things up there really are keeping an eye on us, one last question hangs in the air. Is this just a one-off appearance, or the beginning of something much bigger on the way? 3. Doomsday Dawn. Fiery sky over Los Angeles. That morning, the whole western horizon looked like it was on fire. Deep red spread across every tall building and reflected off the windows like flames rising right in the middle of the city. Have you ever stood in front of a sunrise and felt your heart sink with a bad feeling? It wasn't some poetic moment for taking pictures anymore. That sky left a lot of people speechless with fear. Downtown Los Angeles, smoke from the wildfires drifted in from dozens of miles away. It mixed with the low clouds and formed a dark red dome like glowing coals. Those swirling bands of color up high were breathtakingly beautiful, and at the same time, they felt like something serious was being announced. Plenty of folks stopped on the sidewalk and just stared up in silence. Joel chapter 2 verse 31 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes." Those ancient words rang out like an indictment hanging over that blazing red sky. When the morning light turned from soft to the color of blood, it didn't feel like a coincidence anymore. Thick red streaks mixed with black smoke, creating vivid layers like an oil painting, but heavier, more unusual than normal. Some people said it was just an optical effect, dust and pollution building up in the air. Still, the brightness and the deepness of the color that morning went way beyond anything locals had seen for years. Acts chapter 2 verse 20 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord." End quote. When two witnesses, centuries apart, both talk about a sky changing color, we can't just ignore it. The Bible doesn't only describe what happens, it points to the meaning behind it. The authorities reassured everyone that it all came from wildfires and bad weather conditions. Meteorologists explained about dust particles and humidity, trying to fit it into the usual scientific box. But the unease in people's hearts couldn't be measured with instruments. That feeling was more like a warning than just a natural accident. Matthew chapter 24 verse 29 says, "The sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken." That's not comfort. It's a charge against a generation so sure of its own power. When the sky changes its face, it's like the indictment has been read aloud. That blood-red dawn wasn't just a stunning picture for social media. It was like a wake-up bell ringing through the busy streets, reminding us that judgment isn't some far-off story. If daylight can turn the color of blood in just a few minutes, what's waiting when true darkness finally falls? Was this just one strange morning, or the opening sign of even rougher days ahead? Are you ready if the sky changes color again, and this time there's no familiar excuse left to explain it away? 4. Strange lights in California. Aurora that shouldn't happen. That night, the California sky wasn't its usual dark velvet anymore. It suddenly lit up, swirling with bands of color so captivating they seemed to come from another world. What would you think if you were standing on the Pacific coast and saw lights dancing right overhead? Not in Alaska, not near the poles, but in a place where auroras are almost never seen. Along more than 800 miles of coastline, from Northern California all the way down to Southern California, people stepped outside when word spread about those strange moving lights. Astronomers talked about a powerful solar storm, but what everyone saw went way beyond a science report. Green, purple, and pink lights shimmered like they were painted by hand, twisting into living arches. At times, the bands moved in clear patterns, then suddenly changed direction, leaving the crowd silent, stunned, and puzzled at the same time. Phones went up, whispers spread faster than the waves, but deep down many felt they were witnessing something bigger than just pretty lights. Isaiah chapter 13 verse 10 says, "For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will not shed its light." Those old words felt like a hint that changes up there aren't random. When familiar lights twist and change, it wakes up faith in searching hearts. Experts explained it as a rare atmospheric event caused by an unusually strong solar storm, part of the sun's activity ramping up in its cycle. But what got people thinking was how often these strange sky events are happening lately. This wasn't just one-off anymore. It felt like a series of signs following one after another. Revelation chapter 6 verse 12 says, "The sun became black as sackcloth, the moon became red like blood." When strange colors poured down from space, those words didn't feel so far away. It seemed like a reminder that the universe can shake in ways we can't control. Amid all the talk and analysis, the lights kept swirling, drawing shapes across the sky that were hard to name. Some said it was just weather, but the sacred feeling in that moment whispered something else. When people look up and feel small, that's often when faith gets a chance to grow. Luke chapter 21 verse 11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven." That short statement feels more like an invitation than a final word. If these lights really are signs, they're not just for us to admire, they're calling us to think deeper. Eventually, those glowing bands faded away, leaving the night sky quiet, as if nothing had happened. But the question still hangs there. Could this be an invitation from on high, urging people to look up and get ready for bigger changes coming closer? 5. Mysterious metal object in Guadalajara, Mexico. It peeks out, glints, then disappears behind thick clouds. On the Periférico Highway in Guadalajara, a driver suddenly slows down when he spots a round metal object hanging in the sky. No engine noise, no propellers, just a shiny block reflecting sunlight like polished steel. The video shows it moving slowly, holding a steady height, appearing and vanishing behind the gray clouds. It doesn't zoom off like a plane, doesn't wobble like a drone. It glides with purpose, almost like it's watching what's below. If you were behind the wheel right then, would you keep driving? Or pull over to get a better look? This area isn't far from places where people have reported metallic orbs near Pico de Orizaba. The similarity has a lot of folks